In 2006, a TV episode of Doctor Who titled Doomsday saw the Cybermen and the Daleks battle each other for presumably the very first time. And I'm watching this thinking to myself, there is no way that this hasn't happened before. The two chief villains of Doctor Who coming face to face, there must be an earlier example than this. So I did a bit of research and I do believe I have found the earliest example of Daleks and Cybermen facing each other in combat. And when I did my research, I realised it was like the Third Doctor versus Cybermen all over again. You'd think there would be tons of examples peppered all the way through the great eclectic timeline of Doctor Who expanded fiction, right from the early days of the programme's beginnings. But no, there really is only one or two, and the earliest one that I found was comparatively pretty late in the run-in. It came in the aftermath of the entire Classic Who era, aka 1963 to 1989. That is actually a very long time, and I find it surprising that in all those years, audiences didn't get given some form of story with Daleks fighting Cybermen, be it in a TV episode or in a comic or something. Like when I was watching Doctor Who growing up, one of my first daydream episodes that I thought of in my head was a story where the main protagonists were caught in a battle between Daleks and Cybermen, and I refused to believe that I was the only one. Anyway, I think I found the earliest example, and I could be wrong here, and if I am, please get in the comments and set the record straight, but I'm fairly certain that this was the first legitimate canonised encounter between Cybermen and Daleks. Now, if you wanted to, you could consider the events of the stage play The Ultimate Adventure in 1989 to be the very, very first example, as this did feature a kind of confrontation between the Daleks and the Cybermen. Basically, in this stage play that was full of pantomime stuff and was probably slightly more comedic than it was to be taken as serious Doctor Who, if you like, there was a storyline where the Daleks and the Cybermen joined forces to defeat the Doctor, but that alliance ended when the Daleks planned to betray the Cybermen. But you never actually see this happen as far as I'm aware. It's just something that's talked about and presumably happens off screen. There is no tangible confrontation to be found anywhere in this play between the Daleks and Cybermen, really, so unfortunately I'm going to discount it. And that takes us to 1991. One of the wilderness years, if you will, or more specifically, issue 181 of Doctor Who magazine. This issue featured part one of a two-part short story titled The Heliotrope Bouquet, the earliest example of Daleks fighting Cybermen in a Doctor Who story. On discovering this story, I was very pleased to see that it was written by Dan Abnett. He's a well-known name in expanded licensed science fiction and has written stories for Doctor Who, Marvel, 2000 AD and an absolute ruckload for Warhammer 40,000. He also wrote a standalone military sci-fi novel called Embedded, which I read about 10 years ago, and I gotta say, it's probably one of the most suspenseful sci-fi thrillers I have ever read. Brilliant stuff. And also on discovering this story, the fact that it's embedded in issue 181 of Doctor Who magazine isn't exactly subtle because of this incredible piece of art on the front cover, the other side of which is featured in the second issue. It depicts Daleks in their comic book flying saucers fighting neomorphic, or is it isomorphic, Cybermen on jetpacks in outer space. This excellent piece of artwork was created by Lee Sullivan, who also does additional artwork for the magazine embedded within the pages of the short story itself. Everything about this layout really spoke to me just because it all looks well 90s, so I dove in and I gave this story a good hard read. It is the 26th century, and as far as human beings are concerned, both Daleks and Cybermen haven't existed for a very long time. Station Master Hayden is maintaining the upkeep of Sawpath Junction, a travel junction based in the desert world of the Looking Glass. But one of the trains, or clippers, is running late, 2 months late. Passengers Costain, Misha and Goff are getting impatient, and so decide to embark on their destination of their own volition. They're not going to use a train or a clipper, instead they're going to use a space yacht equipped with solar sails named the Heliotrope Bouquet Mark II. Classy. It is there that they depart the station, and Hayden wishes them well before his station is overrun by those big silver nasties. It appears the Cybermen are back, and just like that, they're on a killing spree. Poor Hayden. The three passengers of the Heliotrope Bouquet are none the wiser until they begin to see evidence of some kind of explosive space battle occurring not far away from their position. As they approach closer, the horrible realization dawns on them that this is indeed a battle between Daleks and Cybermen. Get a load of this excerpt. Cybermen elite infantry with black mounted 0G attitude thrusters, I wonder if that's meant to say altitude, closed in the hellish fury and poured a rain of superheated destruction at the dull polycarbide armour of the Dalek warriors, who, swinging in on their space manoeuvre cradles, blasted back a web of lethal maser energy from their gun sticks. Misha watched the swirling devastation, the unstoppable fury. She saw a Cyberman explode in a welter of blazing gases and glittering metal shards, and spin off sunwards, headless and limbless, its body cavity a ruptured wreck. She saw a Dalek burst apart under sustained fire, globules of internal fluid hanging in the debris trail with the fragments of body casing. Two of mankind's worst nightmares had met and were staging a dreadful personal Armageddon with the Heliotrope caught at the fiery centre. What in the blue blazes is there not to love about that? I'm now going to talk about part 2 of this story, so if that passage gripped your attention and you don't want any spoilers, maybe skip this part of the video or just click away and come back later and watch it. Please come back later. As this nightmarish scenario is unfolding before the three crew members, it is also apparent that something has crash-landed on the Heliotrope itself. One of the crew members, a secret military operative packing a mean gun, discovers that this crash-landed object is actually a Cyberman escape pod. One of the Cybermen is dead on arrival. The other Cyberman, a cyber leader, immediately seizes the man's gun and holds the ship hostage. With no shortage of verbal authority, he is a neomorph after all, the cyber leader commands the crew to fly the Heliotrope back into the heart of the battle. The escape pod is full of explosives, and he is going to detonate the explosives, thus blowing up the Heliotrope, the human crew members and himself right at the heart of the Supreme Dalek ship, thus winning the battle and scoring a victory for Cybermenkind. The passengers of the Heliotrope Bouquet seem to comply with this command at first, but it is actually a double cross. Instead of typing in coordinates to send the ship into the heart of the battle, they instead type in coordinates to steer the ship and steer it hard. The cyber leader is thrown off his feet, his gun is flung across the deck, and before he has a chance to fully recover, one of the crew members shoots him in the back of the head. The back of his skull explodes, and that is bye-bye Cyber Leader, or that particular model of Cyber Leader. I'm sure there's a lot of them. Anyway, the good guys win. Well, the two who survive at least, and that is the end of the story. This is a very good story, it's good fun, it's very gripping, and I love the description of the battles between Daleks and Cybermen. It's not clear who eventually wins this battle. I'm going to assume that it's the Daleks because the Cybermen's leader is destroyed, but given some of the description, it seems like there's a bit more of an equal footing between Daleks and Cybermen. In Doomsday, it is very much apparent that the Daleks are vastly harder than Cybermen. There are only 4 of those Daleks and hundreds of Cybermen, and the Daleks are killing the Cybermen left, right and centre whilst hardly taking a dent in return. And that kind of makes sense to me as much as I love the Cybermen. But in this story it seems a bit more even Stevens. For every Cyberman killed there's a Dalek killed as well, or at least that's how it seems on the artwork. The other thing I really like about the Heliotrope Bouquet is that the Doctor is nowhere to be found. He's completely and utterly not involved in this story. It's just a tale of regular folk trying to survive amidst the destructive tyranny of some of Doctor Who's deadliest creatures. And I think some of my favourite expanded stories in comic book and literary form, especially in the 90s and the 80s, are ones that don't involve the Doctor. It's a more kind of regular, down-to-earth set of people trying to survive, and therefore the stakes are raised, the resolutions and the victories don't come anywhere near as easily. They've really got to work for that victory. And despite the fact that this is just a 2-part short story for a magazine, I feel very well fed having read it. Like, I wish this was honoured and celebrated a little bit more, perhaps republished in some kind of later modern compendium like so many of the classic comics are. It's a really good one, and I suggest you read it for yourself. So, what other comics and books featuring Daleks versus Cybermen are you aware of? Did I miss something else out? Is there something I should be talking about here that I missed? In fact, if it's not even Cybermen and Daleks, what about any kind of villain versus villain story somewhere along the lines, be it in a Big Finish audio, a comic or a book or anything else? Please get in the comments and tell me everything. And thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I am very grateful for your viewership. If you want to check me out on social media, then please visit my Blue Sky page at thechosenchimp.bsky.social. You can also come and visit me on Patreon at patreon.com/thechosenchimp. For just £1 a month, you can become a distinguished follower and request your Doctor Who topic for review. Your name will be mentioned in the video, and your contribution will go towards making this channel a bigger, stronger, smarter, better place. Thanks once again, and I hope you are all safe and well. Please, for the love of Pete and his world, have a good one.